Alrighty, today I'm going to be talking about 4 of the 5 biogeochemical cycles. The first one I'm going to be talking about is carbon. So carbon starts when plants undergo a process called photosynthesis. This is when they take carbon dioxide and water and they use sunlight for the energy and they turn it into glucose and oxygen. That is when they take carbon dioxide and they turn it into organic carbon. And then from there, animals eat the plants, thus being made by carbon as well. When the animals and plants die, decomposers help break down chemical bonds and does release carbon back into the atmosphere, but the organic carbon does get shoved back down to the crust, which can create oil, coal, natural gas. From here, humans extract all those things, and when we burn it, it's called combustion. And from here, that's when carbon dioxide gets put back into the atmosphere. Also, when animals respirate, we put carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere as well. Now, the ocean part of this is when carbon dioxide gets to the ocean surface and photoplanktons absorb that carbon, and then consumers eat the photoplankton. And then from there, when the plants and animals die, that goes down onto the bottom of the sea floor, gets buried over many, many years, and can be turned into coal or oil, which humans do extract and we also use, and that's how that carbon gets put back into the atmosphere as well. The largest reservoirs of carbon is in the ocean. Alrighty, another biogeochemical cycle I'm going to be talking about is phosphorus. I'm going to start with weathering. So when it rains, it can weather down rocks. Phosphorus is found in rocks. It can be pushed down into the soil. From there, plants do absorb the phosphorus. Animals eat the plants. Animals and plants do use it to make DNA and RNA. Now, animals do create waste. Humans use that waste as fertilizer. But when it rains, it can create runoff and go into the ocean. Before I get to the ocean, animals and plants do die. And when they die, they decompose and the phosphorus gets broken down into those components and it can be absorbed by other plants and then eaten by other animals, and then the cycle just continues. But through runoff or through weathering, when the phosphorus do enter oceans, lakes, rivers, the phosphorus dissolves and the marine plants do absorb the phosphorus. Animals eat the plants. When they die, it does get put down to the ocean floor and back into sediments. Now, the sediments from the ocean floor can go back onto land. When mountain ranges are formed is when the two plates collide and the mountain ranges go up. Now, that is how the phosphorus-rich rocks can go from the ocean floor back onto land. Phosphorus does not have an atmospheric component. Most of the phosphorus on this earth are found in sediments. Now, humans do interact with the phosphorus cycle. One of the ways was when raising livestock creates a lot of waste, and that waste does have phosphorus in it, and they use it as fertilizers. The next biogeochemical cycle I'm going to be talking about is the sulfur cycle. Now, sulfur can be emitted into the atmosphere in multiple different ways. Through volcanic eruptions, it can emit sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, dimethyl sulfide. It can also be released into the atmosphere by bacteria byproducts from the ocean. Ocean spray can release sulfur into the atmosphere, and then humans also do take a part in this when they burn fossil fuels, and that releases sulfur into the atmosphere. Now, when the sulfur dioxide reacts with water, it can form sulfuric acid. Now, when there's too much sulfuric acid, it creates acid rain. Now, sulfuric acid is good for the environment because when it rains and it releases some of the sulfuric acid, it can then be absorbed by plants from the soil, and then animals eat the plants, and it's essential for animals and plants to get sulfur just because we use it as a component to make up our amino acids. Now, when plants and animals die, and animals produce waste, and so when all that decays, the sulfur gets put back into the soil, and then that cycle kind of repeats itself. But it can also be pushed down to the earth and help form oil and coal. Then humans extract it and burn the fossil fuels. Another thing is that sulfur is mostly found in the ocean. Also, humans use sulfur dioxide to preserve food, as a disinfectant, as a refrigerant agent, and as a reducing agent as well. And then we also use sulfur dioxide to make bleach. And that's the sulfur. And the last biogeochemical cycle I'm going to be talking about is the nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen help make amino acids, which are the building blocks to protein. So that's one reason why nitrogen is important. Another reason is because it helps create nucleotides, which can be found in DNA and RNA. So I'm going to start with the cycle. I'm going to start up here with atmospheric nitrogen. Atmospheric nitrogen can go down to the ground and into the soil through precipitation. Now, once the nitrogen is in the soil, bacteria and plants combined with hydrogen can create ammonia. This process is called nitrogen fixation. Now, from here, it's going to create nitrites and nitrates from nitrifying bacteria, and this process is called nitrification. From here, it can do a process called denitrification, which is released back into the atmosphere as N2 and can be used by animals, or process where you follow the squiggly line is called assimilations, where plants take up nitrates and use it to make their own amino acids, and then animals eat the plants, can use those acids for their own cells. Now the last step is when the waste or the body of the animals and plants come up with bacteria. Decomposers will break down the nitrogen, and the nitrogen then re-enters the cycle. Now, how humans interact with this nitrogen cycle is by burning fossil fuels. Nitrogen is found in oil and coal and all those other natural gases as well. Also, humans use nitrogen-based fertilizers to help grow our plants as well. And that is the end of my presentation on the biogeochemical cycles.